Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Again, a reminder that all of our guests today are brought to you by the Vancouver Giants. I honestly don't know where to begin when it comes to the Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox and our emails. There's just so much there today. So much reaction to this deal, the Canuck deal for Filip Hronek. And a lot of it, surprisingly, our opinion here, but in Thomas Drance's opinion, a lot of it's positive. Some people are okay with this move. Some Canuck fans are okay with this move. Not Jason. He says, after 20 years, I do not plan on renewing my season tickets. And with that, we bring in proud British Columbian, NHL analyst, co-host of the Bob McCown podcast, John Shannon. Thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
Well, I'm okay. I just want you to know that I don't have the charisma of Drance or Buttman. So, but I'll muddle through.
Well, I beg to differ, John. I beg to differ. Filip Hronek, what do you know about him, and what was your reaction to the deal as the Canucks give away a couple of high draft picks?
Well, he's a good player. Mm-hmm. Is he a great player? No, he's not a great player. He's a good player. And here's the thing. If you go back, remember that famous Monday press conference that Jimmy had? Started with the whole Tanner Pearson hand issue and then morphed into Jimmy giving kind of a state of the team situation. He talked about being able to go find 24 or 25-year-old players around the league that would help this team get better quickly. So place that one over there. Yeah. Then you take a look at giving up a first and a second. Well, the first is Boston's first, I believe, right? So so that's going to be 30, 31, or 30.
Islanders. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. Islanders.
No
You're right. The whole
Yeah.
So it's going to be a middle of the first round. When is that guy going to play for you? When is that first round player is he going to be on the roster next year or the year after? Is he going to need some seasoning in Abbotsford? Yeah. And when's the second round guy going to play? So if you want to start turning this giant aircraft carrier around, you need to have some new bodies in place that can contribute right away. And that's what Hronek will do. He will contribute. Is he going to be Bobby Orr? No. Is he going to be Nick Lidstrom? No. But he's going to be an upgrade. And at this point, with what the grocery list for this team is, that's not a bad thing, particularly when there's probably some thinking inside the organization is we don't have 5 years here. We don't want to wait 5 years here. I'm not suggesting it's the right way or the wrong way. I think that's the real way that they're approaching this.
Mm-hmm. When you talk about the draft picks and when they would be ready to contribute in a big, big way, I think most Vancouver fans and a lot of the media, including myself, would answer, I'd like to find out. Because we've been down this road before. People have been down this road before for a long time, trading away futures for the present, and it hasn't worked out. Do you understand the way a lot of the market is feeling, John?
Totally. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, the Vancouver Canuck fan has lived, 35 years of frustration. Jim Rutherford's lived 18 months frustration. But at the same time, then you have to go and look at his ability to construct, he and Patrick, ability to construct a team. Vancouver, as much as we love the city and we love what British Columbia is all about, Vancouver as a hockey team is no different than the other 31. And this is where you say, and I know there's lots of criticism of management right now. You say, maybe they do know how to build a hockey club. Do I think they overpaid for Hronek? Yeah, I think they probably overpaid for Hronek. But they also want to be better quicker than most people. And when does a good, Donnie, you know this, when do good young defensemen mature? How long does it take?
Yeah. Mid-late 20s.
Well, sure. He's going to be, by the time, season starts, next year he'll be 25. and so there's something to be said for that, and I think that this all goes into place with what Rick Tocchet has been telling Patrick and Jim that what he needs. He needs this type of guy, and I think that there's something to be said for that as well.
John, 24 hours to go, I think, here, 25 for the trade deadline. There's been a lot of talk about JT Miller, Brock Besser. They're trying to unload a bad contract, we hear as well, before the deadline. Do you think it's quiet the rest of the way in Vancouver, or could we see some fireworks?
Haven't they been trying to get rid of those bad contracts since they showed up?
Oh, since day one. Day one.
Yeah,
so you're going to get rid of him in 24 hours, and you got to add a sweetener, and you didn't add a sweetener 9 months ago?
I just wonder. I wonder if that's a draft day thing. If that's is that going to take more time? It's funny. Yeah. I had a couple of managers suggest to me that it's easier to do 3-team trades now than it will be in the summer, but it will be easier to unload bad contracts in the summertime. Yeah. So figure out exactly which you want. Pittsburgh is out there shopping. That's the one thing you can tell. I mean, yes, they made a deal yesterday in Granlund, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Pittsburgh do more. I keep hearing Minnesota and Pittsburgh trying to do something from that perspective. Who knows if that's true? But Minnesota also needs to do some stuff too. So from that perspective, I think that Billy Guerin's going to be active, and their team's in Western Canada right now as well. So that'll be an interesting one to watch. And I've always wondered if that's, and this is lots of guys are doing these days, so I don't mind doing it. It's totally speculative. Is there any way that Brock Besser goes home
to Minnesota?
And does that make Does that make sense? It makes a ton of sense for the Wild if they can afford him, because I think they know that he can shoot the puck. Wow. And they need to relieve the pressure off Kaprizov, because he can't do it all himself all the time.
Well, I will say this to you about Brock Besser. If he plays tonight, they're not close, because if they're close with Brock, he's not playing tonight. John, the arms race in the East, Boston gets Bertuzzi, the Devils, oh my goodness, the Leafs, the Rangers. I don't know who to pick out of that group. It's going to be crazy.
What do you mean you don't know who to pick? Who's the best team in hockey?
Well, it's Boston. But hold it a second.
Absolutely.
Better.
Absolutely. And they've gotten better.
Yeah. But so have the Devils and the Leafs and the Rangers. Rangers just got Kane. Everyone's.
There's only one puck.
Yeah, I know.
There's only one puck, and what I think the Bruins did in so many ways better than anybody else is they did not upset the chemistry.
Yeah.
They did not upset the chemistry of their team. Not that Chris Drury upset the chemistry of his team or what Kyle did, but I'll tell you what, the Bruins. I mean, this arms race all was to combat what Boston has done. Every time, this is all about beating the Boston Bruins. Every team has to beat the Boston Bruins, and then the Bruins just go and get better and better and better. If Taylor Hall gets back for the playoffs, there's a chance that Tyler Bertuzzi's a fourth liner in Boston. A fourth liner.
Wow.
Think about it. I mean, the depth of that team is unbelievable right now, and with great goaltending. And I don't have to tell you how good Linus Ullmark is after you guys saw him play, and then what he did in Calgary the other night.
Yeah, and he can score goals. There's that too.
Well, he's ahead of a few guys on the list, yes.
Hey, John, tomorrow's the trade deadline, and what it was like a week ago, we were all criticizing the NHL in relation to the NBA, and, there's not enough trade activity. Boy, that's changed. I don't think it's a reaction to the NBA. It's just the way it is this year. But do you not find it extremely interesting and entertaining, kind of out of the blue?
Two sides of that, Donnie. First of all, I think there's a ton of pressure, and this goes back to the East discussion a bit too. I think there's a ton of pressure from ownership in a lot of these places to say, "Hey, listen, we need some playoff dates. Make sure that we get at least a couple of rounds." And we're talking about playoff dates could mean $5 million per game for some of these teams. That's a lot of money if you can have 4 or 6 games at home over 2 rounds. It's a lot of cash, and I think that it's kind of a pandemic hangover, where there's lots of owners saying, we paid players for that year and a half. We paid them their full salaries. The escrow issue has not been resolved completely yet. revenues are still flatter, I think, a few places than people realize. We need to win some playoff rounds, and I think that's one of the reasons why everybody's really trying to gear up from it. And the other one is, I think that there's some creativity now that has not existed in hockey for the longest time, because we were such a linear sport. We didn't think that way. Basketball's been ahead of us, and the NBA managers have been ahead of us for years on this. And I think that that's something that's finally coming to hockey.
And, of course, Gary Bettman came from the NBA. John, thanks so much for this. We'll talk to you next week.
That was a long time ago.
94.
It was, but I just thought I impressed people with my knowledge of Bettman's past.
Yeah, no, I know, but come on. Give the guy's going to be the longest-running commissioner in professional sports. He was only at the NBA for 6 years.
But he learned off one of the best. He learned off one of the best at David Stern.
He learned off the best.
Yeah.
The best, not one of the best, the best in David Stern. By the way, just for the record, we are live.
Okay,
and
we are finished.
Bobby Schmatz.
And Bobby Schmatz. You used that one last time. You must have some other ones there. Nothing against Bobby.
You got Ron Settlebauer.
No.
Ron Settlebauer.
No. Hey, by the way, number 17 for the Vancouver Canucks. Who I think of?
Who?
Hilliard Graves.
The hip checks.
Yeah, hip checks.
Ooh.
Yeah, hip check Hilliard. Yep, remember him.
That's right.
Yeah, and by the way, John, thanks for showing that Bobby Schmatz card, reminding Canuck fans of another deal that didn't go all that well. Although Chris Odlefson was pretty good, Bobby Schmatz helped them get to a couple of Stanley Cup finals. So there's that.
Bobby Schmatz was as good in Vancouver as he was in Boston.
Yeah,
and he was still one of the great snipers of all time.
John, thanks for this. We'll talk to you next week.
Cheers, boys.
John Shannon, the pride of Oliver. And like a lot of those guys back east, he cares about what happens in British Columbia.
BC guy.